He's West Coast.
PTSD.
Not PDS. It's PST. Hello, everybody.
PTSD.
Hi, Skydog. I am a bit late. You were correct. My wife thinks you have PTSD now.
No.
I'm trying to get out of the way.
She would move. She would not move.
That was kind of fun. Our games you hanging out with yourselves. Okay. Watch our boring games. So much buffering. God, I know. You guys, let me know if you're. Yeah. So let me know if you're still here too. But we'll keep going. Oh man, work. Tired of work. But we'll get right into it. Today's lesson is a time for kings. It's all about this. Put it back in the day, the sin of tolerance of Jeraboam, that freaktard. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, man. My wife made a delicious steak taco, and I brought her sushi. But man, I wish I hadn't bought dinner because there was a bit of miscommunication. Those steak tacos, man. I would spend big money for my wife's steak tacos. You better make them again. That's all I'm saying. All right.
You don't even
Jada. I'll make him all kinds of jealous. I don't care. Rosie, where are you at? Rosie, come. You're a dog. Here we go. Yes, Rosie wish she got steak tacos today. Yes. Oh, hello, Gato. All right. Now that my wife is replaced with a dog, we can get into this. Oh God, and there's a cat. Run away, cat. Run away. Oh no, the cat is now a chew toy.
No.
Okay. Okay. I'm very distracted by what's going on around me. I'm gonna get into it. So let's get into the lesson. Hope you guys had a. Oh wait, I need to share that we're live. Don't. Holy crap! I help. You help me? Who's helping?
No,
what?
the cat. I help the cat.
All right, hang on a minute. I'm gonna copy some things. Do the thing. The thing. You know, man, the thing. Our kids are gonna have no idea what's happening when I'm walking by them. And my cat alive now, gents. I'm just gonna do that because I'm tired to describe what the lesson's all about. Oh, hello, little cat. How are you? Yes. All right. And because I should always share on the Discord, and I always forget, share there real quick.
Make sure you're in the right chat thing.
No, I'm using yours, woman. Don't even worry.
Make sure you're in the right chat.
We are live. I can't spell. We are live. All right. Thank you for bearing with me, everybody. Cat, here's my butt. Yes. Very typical cat logic, too. What a little turd he is. Yes. Say hi to everybody. Hello. Yes. Wow. Judgmental cat is judgmental. Well, we'll get back to this. All right. Enough ridiculous ramble time. Too tired to give you guys an interesting show right now out of it. So I don't know what it is. It's like work drains my soul or something. Certainly doesn't drain my brain power. Yay. And yes, this is an AI photo. You may notice some of these boats don't quite look right. Well, that's all right. We'll give the AI credit. At least it looks good if you don't look too closely. All right, this lesson. Hey, Art Games, you didn't have to end your stream for us, you butt. But thanks for coming on in. All right. You missed the cat balls. Those aliens get you at last, those bastards. That last bear trap That was nasty. That was a nasty bear trap. I don't agree with that. That was the developers being cheap. They still didn't fully explain what all the bear traps were doing there, and then they confirmed that the bear traps were there before the apocalypse. So there's just a nut job leaving bear traps all over the kids' camp. I personally, that's an interesting story that will never be explored. The man trying to catch children in bear traps. Anyway, now that I'm utterly distracted, let's get into the lesson.
Distracted? No.
Oh, no. Okay, lesson 14, a time of kings. I'm going to say a time for Bible, and the story of vengeance and war wouldn't be complete without a look at King David, the man after God's own heart. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. Before the time had expired, David arose and went along with his men and killed 200 of the Philistines. And David brought their foreskins, which were given in full number, to the king, that he might become the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him his daughter Michal for a wife. 1 Samuel 18:26 through 23. Not the usual verse one generally reads about the man reads about the man who would be a direct ancestor to Jesus Christ. How about this one? Now David and his men went up and made raids against the Geshurites, the Amalekites. Remember, Amalekites were related to giants back in the day. Important one. For these were the inhabitants of the land from of old, as far as Shur to the land of Egypt. And David would strike the land and would leave neither man nor woman alive, but would take away the sheep, the oxen, the donkeys, the camels, and the garments, and come back to Achish. And when Achish asked, "Where have you made a raid today?" David would say, "Against the Negeb of Judah, or against the Negeb of Jeharamelites, or against the Negeb of the Kenites." And David would leave neither man nor a woman alive to bring news to Gath, thinking lest they should tell about us and say, "So David has done." Such was his custom all the while he lived in the country of the Philistines. 1 Samuel 27:8-11. Even if we are looking at the darker side of the greatest king of Israel, most would turn to the story of infidelity and murder in the whole Bathsheba incident. The verses we just looked at highlight an angle modern theologians and churchians don't want to see. David was never admonished nor punished for slaughtering entire villages, unlike his affair and murdering of his subordinate. If you don't remember, the whole Bathsheba incident wasn't just him having an affair. He also got the woman pregnant, and then when his plan to convince his subordinate, so the guy in his army, to come home and sleep with his wife so he would think the kid was his officer, I forget his name, refused to sleep with his wife because he was such a good man that he refused to have the comforts of home while all of his brothers were out in the field. So he was like, "No, I won't go have time with my wife while everybody else is stuck out at war, O king." And the king's like, "Crap." So he devised a way to kill him, and he basically tells the entire army to step back so he's out in front all by himself and gets killed. I mean that's a pretty big sin. You know what I mean? And he gets punished pretty thoroughly for it. But I want to point out here is the killing the 200 men to get his first wife and cutting off their penises. I mean, talk about an awkward job at the end there. I mean, we're not cutting off heads here. We're cutting off dicks.
I mean,
How romantic. Here, honey, I got a basket of something for you. Give it to your dad for me, please. The ancient world was wild sometimes, man.
that was just the best.
I mean, does it have to be the dick? Wouldn't fingers be in there or something? Other way of proof you killed 200 Philistines? You got a secretary to do it. Woo! Oh man, talk about being not a sec. What was the thing? the college students always have to do for free to get experience. The intern, yeah, the intern in the ancient world, they didn't have to go get coffee. They had to get coffee and they had to cut off dicks on their way there. Woo! And then again, David was a thorough man. He might have done it all himself, just enticing. God. Like, this has to be a joke. You don't actually expect me. Yes, it's totally to get the commander's wife. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh, and if you missed the part of why he was slaughtering the entire villages, to give a little context for that, this was after David and his band of men had to flee out of Israel. And so they went to the land of Philistines, the enemies of their people. And King Achish actually gave them asylum and gave them a town to raid from and all the rest as long as he stayed with him. And if you, when I was a kid, I was always confused about what was going on. But basically, Amalekites, the other one, Jeraboam, those were allies of the Philistines. And some of them would have even been kind of part of the Philistines, the Amalekites especially. So what he's doing, he's literally attacking King Achish's allies and subjects and stuff, and killing all of them so they can't say what happened, and then saying that he was going and raiding Judah, Israel, and the Israelites' allies. So, that's a very dangerous game, if you know what I mean. A very practical thing to do, but also killing everybody. It's pretty brutal and something to remember. Right. David was never admonished nor punished for slaughtering entire villages, unlike his fair and murdering of his subordinate. In fact, it seems God was with him through all these events, granting him the ability to succeed even while annihilating entire villages, just to make sure no witnesses were left alive to tell the Philistine king whose kingdom he was hiding in. Or killing 200 men and cutting off the tips of their genitals for dowry to marry his first wife. Modern standards would take umbrage with these events in David's life. The fact remains, David was called a man after God's own heart, and in God's own words, had spilt much blood. This isn't to say the man was perfect. Like most alphas, women were his weakness, and this would almost destroy his dynasty in its infancy. Though another more looked over incident involved getting too prideful and bringing down bringing down the Lord's wrath on all of Israel. Then Satan stood against Israel and incited David to number Israel. So David said to Joab, the commanders of the army, "Go number Israel from Beersheba to Dan, and bring me a report that I may know their number." But Joab said, "May the Lord add to his people 100 times as many as they are. Are they not my lord the king, all of them my lord's servants? Why then should my lord require this? Why should it be a cause of guilt for Israel?" But the king's word prevailed against Joab. So Joab departed and went throughout all Israel and came back to Jerusalem. And Joab gave the sum of the numbering of the people to David. In all Israel there were 1,100,000 men who drew the sword, and in Judah 470,000 who drew the sword. But he did not include Levi and Benjamin in the numbering, for the king's command was abhorrent to Joab. But God was displeased with this thing, and he struck Israel. And David said to God, "I have sinned greatly in that I have done this thing. But now, please take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have acted very foolishly." And the Lord spoke to Gad, David's seer, saying, "Go and say to David, thus says the Lord, 3 things I offer you. Choose one of them that I may do it to you." So God came to David and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, choose what you will. Either 3 years of famine or 3 months of devastation by your foes while the sword of your enemies overtakes you, or else 3 days of the sword of the Lord, pestilence on the land with the angel of the Lord destroying throughout all the territory of Israel. Now decide what answer I shall return to him who sent me." Now what's interesting about this too, remember, the angel of the Lord again. Lots of even churchian theologians bring up the fact that they think that the angel of the Lord is Jesus Christ. which is interesting because a number of situations in the Bible, the angel of the Lord is a hatchet man. He's basically the guy sent out to smack people around, to do punishments. It happens a lot. Well, a number of times. I won't say a lot. Like what generic? It happened more than once. Which, I am inclined to agree with them that the angel of the Lord is at least a manifestation of God in some way because of all the times that he sees the God's face, all the rest, right? That was probably undescribed, but basically, when people see the angel of the Lord and they realize who it is, they always say, "I've seen the face of God," and they freak out, and God has to tell them, "No, you're not going to die." This leads people to the reason my wife's taking off her coat in a funny way. What was that about? How distracting. Anyway. Anyway, don't ask the weird things, weird inside jokes in this house. You would never know. But yeah, it's interesting to think of it. And it brings up again in Revelations, we have this image of Jesus Christ coming back, being a hatchet man again, being the guy who comes down and does the smackdown. And again, there's the references to Jesus Christ going down to Sheol after, when he takes the keys of Hades, you've heard the line and all that, what he's doing there. About your shut up. What? Skydog says Bow Chicka Wow Wow. You're welcome. Oh gosh, that's so distracting. You did that on purpose.
What?
I was talking to Skydog. You did it on purpose too, wife. It's a conspiracy. Anyway, yeah. Hatchet Man. And, it's interesting with that, too, because that's central to a lot of their arguments for the Trinity being the way it is. One could argue that John himself, the apostle, agrees with this because you have this right in the beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and blah, 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 right? What he's referring to Christ being there in the beginning, and thus hinting at the angel of the Lord being Christ in all these different places and whatnot. And it makes sense that Jesus Christ would have been doing things before he, came to earth as a being and a manifestation of the Lord God Almighty, right? And it's interesting to talk about that a little bit because you have that whole moment where Owen Benjamin's like ranting about, like, I don't get the Trinity and all that. And whether or not the Trinity is a thing or is exactly, it's a pointless argument. It really is. Because, thank you, wife. I don't want to get too sidetracked, right? But for example, the idea that God can't manifest through one of his servants and thus you're interacting with God through that servant. How many times has someone delivered the word of God on earth, right? Prophets, maybe even your own life, or maybe at times you even hear God's voice in your head or even you speak it out loud, right? There's no reason why God couldn't take that a step further with one of his servants. And that's neither here nor there right now, because that's just me speculating. And these ideas have been kind of recently bouncing in my head, so they're not going to come out quite right. And I want to be careful with them because this is not exactly the right spot for lots of new ideas coming into my mind, which are probably old ideas that I'm sure old guys with beards have been talking about. Old guys with beards, but you know what I mean. Old bald guys with beards. I keep trying to distinguish myself away, and then I keep talking. Older bald guys with beards have been talking about for ages, like everything.
Okay, you're fine.
I described myself, wife. She's referring to the incident where Elijah was walking down the road in some old guys with beards. Feel attacked. Skydog, we're all old. It's okay. But my wife was specifically referencing when it's either Elijah or Elisha is walking down the road, and some kids start mocking him for being bald, and he curses them, and then a bear comes out and eats them. It's pretty harsh. Personally, I think Elijah kind of overreacted, but that's just me. That's just me, All right. Then David says to God, I am in great distress. Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is very great, but do not let me fall in the hands of man. So the Lord sent a pestilence on Israel, and 70,000 men of Israel fell. God sent the angel to Jerusalem to destroy it, but as he was about to destroy it, the Lord saw and he relented from the calamity. And he said to the angel who was working destruction, It is enough, now stay your hand. And the angel of the Lord was standing by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David lifted his eyes and saw the angel of the Lord standing between earth and heaven, and in his hand a drawn sword stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces. And David said to God, Was it not I who gave the command to number the people? It is I who have sinned and done great evil. But these sheep, what have they done? Please let your hand, O Lord my God, be against me and against my father's house, but do not let the plague be on your people. 1 Chronicles 21, 1 through 17. Now, before I let this verse go completely, I actually discovered something new when I was rereading this. So if you come up here and it says this part here, then Satan stood against Israel and incited David to number Israel. Fascinatingly enough, if you look at the same, it's not the same verse, the same story in is it Second Kings or is it Second Samuel? I think it's Second Samuel, right? Second Samuel, something. If you look it up with Blue Letter Bible, it'll come up really fast for you because there's like a lot of different stories in the Bible. There's two different versions of this one, or two different retellings of the same story. You have this one in Chronicles, which is chronicling all of the different kings, starting with Saul and working their way all the way to the last king of Israel. And I highly recommend reading both versions of all the stories because each one has a little different details on everything going on. Just like reading all of the Gospels are important because they all have different views of what's happening, and thus you get different details. And then Muslims come around and say, "Oh, but they say different things, and so it must be false." That's my. That was my best Muslim apologist voice. They're quite funny people. But in this case, we have an interesting situation where the other version says God incites David to number Israel, and this
It's very black.
don't be racist. Don't be racist. And I found that fascinating. This is something that deserves more study. And again, apparently this is a lesson that in the streaming I'm going to be talking about ideas that I should be ruminating and praying about more before I talk about them in public. But it strikes me that both can't be right in this situation. Like most of the time when I run into a Muslim apologist or an atheist loser who thinks they've found some issue with the Bible, and even if I don't automatically know the answer, usually a 10-20 minute research on that line proves that it's overblown, and usually just lack of understanding of the history is what brought it about. One classic example of that was how Judas died. There's this whole shenanigans. One gospel says he died like this, one said he died on this, blah, 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 blah. Lots of stuff happened. But it's such a complicated chain of events that actually make complete sense that I don't even remember how that got all solved, but it actually does make perfect sense, caused by the fact that you have different witnesses witnessing the same event and are bringing up different
The coffee looks more Latin.
ooh, are bringing up the things that stuck out in their mind. So if you ever want to exercise in research, I recommend looking that up. And that deserves a whole lesson on its own. I think next semester, yeah. Yes, I'm already planning out a next semester. Suck it up, princesses. You need to learn the Bible. And it's good for me to... Oh, by the way, the coffee's delicious, wife. It's good for me to refresh, obviously, because I don't remember the answer. But in this situation,
Refresh what?
what the story that I just brought up, that I don't even remember the problem and I don't remember the solution, but I remember there's a problem. How useful! What content? It's what happens when I stream at the end of the day after finally getting my kids in bed and harassing Arcanes on his stream. Man. And I agreed to write a quick fun story for the guys in my clan in Foxhole, the story of their battleship that survived the whole war.
The story that never
SNS
gets
Conclave,
aired.
baby. Fucked the colonials up at every turn and survived every fight. But I think they killed it at the end for kicks and giggles. It was the last part of the war. You don't get to keep your ships at the end. It's sad. Oh, by the way, Skydog, are you feeling better, man? Made sure I prayed for you yesterday. Hope you're not still stuck on 7-Up and all that. But yeah, everyone pray for Skydog and quick recovery. I should probably get back to it. But, just to finish this point, it's interesting that you have these two perspectives because it shows that there are at least some parts of the Bible that we can't call anything else but the writer's perspective. There's another moment of this, I would say, in Ecclesiastes, where at the end, there's clearly another writer that steps in and tries to basically put a spin on everything that Solomon talked about and how Solomon's basically in complete despair about life at the end. And the dude's like, so yeah, the moral of the story is trust in God and yeah. It's pretty funny, actually, in my opinion. So I want to be careful with that because people will take that out of context. They'll go crazy with it. And I don't want to give myself an out because, the second the Bible doesn't make you uncomfortable at all is the second that you're changing the Bible to your preferences. Generally. Right? I'm not going to say it's going to happen every time. Right? But remember, God is his own entity. God is ancient. God is something beyond our understanding. A being that creates beings with multiple, dozens and dozens of eyes, spinning wheels, and 4 heads, and flying in 6 different directions. Oh, good, Skydog. I'm glad you're feeling better. He's not something that we can understand in our current state, right? And if that's his throne guardians, think of some of the depictions of him on the throne, some of the depictions in general. Oh man, I forgot to put my ring back on. My hands were getting a little dry after washing dishes at work.
Bleach?
Yeah, it was yesterday. But what I'm getting with that is a very slow roundabout way of explaining if God is matching up perfectly to what you want him to be, then you're making that up. I know not all of it, but you're basically making a box and you're sticking him in it. Because God is a complex being, far more complex than any of us understand. It's not. He's obviously the pinnacle of what good is, but what we thinks is good is not going to be perfectly lined up with what God thinks is good, because his perspective and Ancient of Days and all the rest and our limited perspective and who and what we are necessitates that we don't completely understand it. So if God is making complete and perfect sense to you 100% of the time, you need to be careful because you might be putting him into a box, something you can control. You making lies about him in your head. The Churchians do this all the time. Putting him into a box that they can understand, making God what they want him to be. If that makes sense. And so it's important that you run into verses every now and then that kind of irk you wrong and you don't know how to handle it. Wife's finishing off the snacks while the kids are asleep. Naughty.
I didn't get my portion yet.
I
How much is left?
gave you a little bit every time, Shirley.
I split it with the kids because they kept asking for more.
Finish it off then. You're the one that has to gain weight. So someone tell this belly fat to zoom over here. It's not working. But yeah. That was a really long about way of just saying, hey, watch yourself, that you're always trying to match yourself up to God, and there's going to be things that make you uncomfortable about him because of the ancient being that he is, and your limited perspective, and the morality of man, how it changes through the seasons. Now, remember, it wasn't too long ago that no one had a problem with slavery. It wasn't too long ago, I'm trying to think of other moral stuff off the top of my head. Oh, that
Multiple wives and concubines.
sure. Certain cultures are cool with that. And we could also move that along, right? Let's say I grabbed a cannibal and his culture and what he thinks is good. Does that match up with ours? No, not even close. And that's what I'm pointing out with that is man has an incomplete picture and it's more relativism without God. But that necessitates that there's going to be things that you and I find uncomfortable about God. Otherwise, the morality is just our morality. You understand what I'm saying about that? If there's nothing about God that makes you uncomfortable, then you're just you're just projecting yourself into God's position. Right? Because even with normal people, you're probably going to find something about them, just differences between people of similar stats that you think morally repugnant or something. Like I'm sure a lot of people who like about what I say don't like the fact that I cuss. Yeah. Now we can make all kinds of arguments about that, but I don't care. What I'm trying to get at is God is a completely different being than us. Though we have a bit of him in us. We are made in his image. He is still a completely different entity than us. And has a perspective that we will not understand until we're up in heaven. And so some things about him are going to make us uncomfortable. I feel like I'm just repeating myself, so I'm just going to move on. Oh!
It's okay.
Tangent over like one line. Notice that David as king meant his sins were reflected on his people, and indeed his people paid the price for his indiscretions. A fact to take to heart as a leader of men. Your sins and their consequences will reflect on your people, and as followers, remember your leader's sins will affect you as well. Best make sure you deal with all those corrupt judges who keep corrupting your corrupting. I needed to change up the two words there. Our nation, if you know what I mean. Also, as a father, you're the head of the house. Your sins are going to reflect on the entire house, which is something you need to remember. And this is very true. My sin of laziness, sloth, and gluttony really did affect my entire family. I'm still dealing with it a little bit, but I recovered a lot. My pants don't fit anymore. Yay. Had a couple of boomers the other day, like, asked me, like, hey, how do you keep your pants up? But I'm like, well, first of all, you're...
What are you looking at my husband's butt for?
That's a good question, considering
That's
I'm kind of an overweight, hairy man. Like, what are you doing, weirdo? Good one, wife. Where were you at that?
I swear, sometimes when you come back home, you tell me the stories. I'm like, where was I at this time? Because I could have.
Well, you were with your children. Where
I
you
was, but it's like
See,
strangle them.
You know, I don't joke when I tell you that
That's
she's
my man, and that's his butt.
Sometimes I don't know why she's so jealous of me. Like
God gave you to me, you are mine. Vice versa.
Literally, I never dated a woman before her. I married her. And I've never pursued any other women around her. But like,
Remember when those black chicks catcalled
We
you?
weren't dating yet when that
You were
happened.
long distance
When
dating.
you got me there. Yeah, she still brings that up. The one time I got catcalled while running down the street in Springfield, Missouri, of all places.
I'll tell you how many times I've been.
Yes, there was a time where I had a body where I could get catcalled. Hilarious. She still catcalls me, but it was a little different. Anyway, I'll get back into this. Yes. Aren't Apex Predator women hilarious? Like, she doesn't even really have any competition. Not really. But she still feels competitive. It's hilarious. I love you.
Oh, you too.
Look at that angry chip. You know, I gotta get back to the lesson. We're 36 minutes in. I don't think I've even gone halfway. All right.
I'm gonna go get some more iced tea.
What iced tea?
The one I made you.
That's not tea.
Coffee.
Mm.
So
Anyway, it's important for all of you guys also who are going to be leaders, young men in particular. You need to remember your sins, not always, but sometimes will reflect on your nations, on your people. Like, you know, we've talked about in previous lessons the layers of culpability, right? You have your individual culpability, you have your family culpability, you have your, like, you know, your individual level sins, your family level sins, your clan to tribe to nation to kingdom to empire level sins that affect everybody in that umbrella. And it's not always fair, but again, Jesus Christ can break those sins. Like, you know, you're not, if you have a family curse, right? Yes, they do exist. Creepy, weird stuff. Jesus Christ can overcome that, right? There's no curse that's powerful enough to overcome Christ. Right? The ultimate sacrifice won. So that's what's to remember, but that still doesn't mean there won't be consequences for those sins. I forget exactly which verse. I think I brought it up before in a previous lesson, but it talked about how the good man, in a particular instance, that in the day of the Lord, the good man will escape, but only by like this, you know, I think I added the term skin of his teeth, but it's like he could only escape with just with himself, and he won't even be able to save his family.
I
You know,
it used to say that, didn't it?
I think that's actually, you know, I
Or was
want to
that
call
one?
that Mandela effect, but I think that's just me projecting and adding that line.
Really?
It
'Cause I
happens.
thought we.
Hmm.
Oh my God, I've heard that phrase all the time.
Well, trust me, skin and teeth, it's been used, but I don't think it was from that context, if that makes any sense. Because we also use that term when we were referring to like people who got in by just the skin of their teeth into heaven and all that. Remember
Yeah.
that? So, yeah, weird stuff. I hate rereading. Like, these lessons are also really good for me because it reestablishes everything I've done research on. And sometimes things are different. Sometimes I think it is the Mandela effect. Other times I think I just remember things wrong. But and so far it's never changed the meat of the matter, right? The overall term. It's just maybe a little less poignant, or the language was a bit wrong, or the story was different. But I've never had an instance where it was completely false. But it's good for me to go back through because the little, you know, as these things, if and when these things become more popular, you're always going to have these little nitpicking ankle biters coming around. You said this wrong just this one time.
It was me.
Note that when David makes a mistake, the text and thus God clearly points out the event and the negative results of that sin. These other actions, the slaughtering of entire villages and such, were not considered a sin by God, a fact that shouldn't be ignored. David's life shows us a unique look at a man who trusts the Almighty so emphatically that he makes Gideon look like a scared, insecure rabbit in a snare. Fleece? Signs from heaven? Psh, tell me go. Just tell me go and I'll go, David says, and he did. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, and all the Philistines went up to search for David. But David heard of it and went down to the stronghold. Now the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you give them into my hands?" And the Lord said to David, "Go up, for I will certainly give the Philistines into your hand." And David came to Baal Perazim, and David defeated them there. I like that word. And he said, "The Lord has broken through my enemies before me like a breaking flood." Therefore, the name of the place was called Baal Perazim, which I assume is something like Baal, right? The entity Baal, the demon Baal. Something like flooded or broken. Excellent. Love it. Ball smacked around, bitch. If I may. You know what's kind of funny about that? If we named the place like Devil Butthurt Ground, it would eventually, like 1,000 years from now, sound really like interesting to people. Like, but yes, Ball Butthurt Ground. A very nice, wonderful name for a valley. Because language changes and it sounds all nice. Like, if you, this is a funny tangent thing.
In the desert, it would have been very hot.
Yeah, because
Bird all the way.
you know, a lot of these places' names, when you look into their like linguistic stuff, is literally like the river place, the cliff, the meeting place. Durr. Yeah, and then you like, you know, by the time that gets translated to you through all the different languages of time, it's like, you're like, wow, that sounds so cool. And it's just where the sheep farted one day.
This is why you never get tattoos.
But, you know, linguistically, it also makes sense because where, let's say how places get their name, right? It's like, hey, Jerry, where do you want to meet today? You want to meet by that gnarly tree out by Jerry Street? You mean the one that looks like a dog's ass? Yeah, that tree.
Gnarly tree.
And then it changed, you know, everyone says meet at the dog ass tree. And eventually that place gets named Dog Ass Tree. Right? Down the line, no one remembers what dog ass means anymore. And they just like, Dog Ass Tree. Dog Ass Tree. And then like you have like an invasion from some like Spaniards or something, and they add a lisp, Dagastri, and then you know, then next thing you know, a few centuries down, and people are like new Dagastri.
No, are you speaking Russian?
And then you know, some guy comes back from the past, like, you mean the dog ass tree?
Reminds me of boat art.
How many things are like that? God knows. Most of them are literally just like, you know, the place where the rivers came to, or the place where this happened, or that.
Bonnet.
Because when you're a busy person and you need some place to meet or like to give perception, right? You got to come up with a name fast, and this is how it always happens. This has been your linguistic history with the random bald guy. All right. Valley of Rephaim. And when David inquired, and then the Philistines left their idols there, and David and his men carried them away. And the Philistines came up yet again, spread out to the Valley of Rephaim. They really like that valley. And when David inquired of the Lord, he said, "You shall not go up. Go around to their rear and come against their opposite, the balsam trees. And when you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, then you rouse yourself, for then the Lord has gone out before you to strike down the army of the Philistines." And David did as the Lord had commanded him, and struck down the Philistines from Geba to Gezer. 2 Samuel 5:17-25. His faith, bravery, and obedience are the main attributes we were told about in Sunday school for why God favored him so much, favored David so much, despite his flaws and sins. I would like to add another to his retinue, something Jesus Christ himself alluded to. Behold, you know what? Let's take a moment before we continue. I am in tangent central right now. You're welcome. But think how crazy this is, right? He is literally getting battle tactics from God. I mean, that's pretty intense. There is a faith there that blows my mind when you really put your mind to it. Could you imagine, in a practical sense, you know, if you mess up, people are going to die and you might die. That's how much faith David had. Like, to the point where he's doing a battle plan, says, okay, we're going to go up. And then God says, no, you need to flank from this angle. And he has to tell his generals, God told me we need to flank from over here. You know, modern day, they'd probably They wouldn't handle that too well in the modern day. You know? Then this isn't the first time it happened either. Before this, there was this time where he was hiding in the caves, right? And I think it was the Philistines again, but don't quote me on that. Attacked the nearby city, and David goes, "Should I go save them?" And God says, "Yeah, I'll hand them into your hands." And he goes, "Okay," and then goes. And then I think there was another time they came and he saved them again. And then he hears that Saul's coming to kill him, and he goes, "Should I run? Will the people protect me?" And God says, "Yes, run. They are going to give you up to Saul." So he's like, "Get out!" That is a level of trust that blows my mind. When you really put your mind to it, and if you've ever been in a heated situation, I've never been in battle, quote unquote, but I've been in life-threatening situations, and there's also like life-threatening situations you get into and you have no prep for and it just happens, right? And you just act on instinct, and maybe God gives you some inspiration, you follow it. I've experienced that. And then there's the ones where you're getting into a dangerous situation and you have time to plan for it, and you can, and the gnawing in the back of your head of like, have I made the right choice? How am I going to do this right? Is this, and to be able to cut through all that nonsense and hear God's voice and act on it with complete confidence, that is why David was the man after God's own heart. That is a level of faith that shatters my consciousness sometimes. Okay, I don't know how he did it, and I'm very impressed. But I'll continue. I just thought I'd point that out. Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. Matthew 10:16. King David also was a crafty man, just as much as a powerful leader and king. I feel like I'm missing words in there. Damn. As we can see in 1 Samuel 21. And David rose and fled that day from Saul and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said to him, "Is not this David, the king of the land? Did they not sing to one another of him in dances? Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." And David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. This is the first time he ran to the Philistines before he had men and people around him. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands, and made marks on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, "Behold, you see the man is mad. Why then have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen that you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?" 1 Samuel 21:10-15. Yep. Crafty. That's what he was. And again, I don't want you guys to ignore the language here. Be wise as serpents. Jesus Christ, whenever he is referencing a snake, remember, you brood of vipers, right? He's referencing the devil when he's doing that. What is he saying very specifically? Like, he could have told them, be wise as an owl. Be as, crafty as a fox. But no, it was wise as a serpent. Basically, be as smart as your enemies. Be as smart as the devil's children. Don't run into their traps like dipshits and have to waste God's power to get yourself out. You know what I mean? That is what Jesus is saying there. And we have a clear example of this in King David's life, where rather than like demanding angels come in and burn out the entire kingdom of Achish, he acts insane, and the king goes, "What is this freak doing here? Why you do this? Why bring the nut job into my house like this, you servants of mine?" I could probably have done that in a more entertaining way, but we're gonna move on. David knew how to fight his enemy at his own game, at the devil's own game. Wise as serpents is not a phrase picked. Oh, whoops! I should have kept reading. Lightly by our Savior. We must be as wise as the evil we face and be ready for his attacks. David, acting crazy to avoid being executed by his enemies, was thinking like a tricky reptile. David killed everyone in those villages to hide the fact that he was raiding the homes of Israel's enemies and not Israel itself. He actively lied to his host, King Achish. Later, David would defeat the very same Philistines in battle over and over again. King David could play the dragon's game with God's protection. That's key. With God's protection, right?
Mhm.
God was with him the whole time, and whenever he stepped out of line, God slapped him around. Don't be thinking you're clever enough to beat the serpent and his servants on your own, but don't be a baby surrounded by predators in a candy store. Spiritual war is still war. There are tactics, stratagems, deception, intrigue, and violence, and this is the fight you've been born into, born for. I used to have a book of martyrs I'd read religiously when I was a teenager. A silly title for a brilliant work, listing miracles going from the 2000s all the way back to Stephen, the first martyr of Christ himself. Jesus freaks, silly as they come. I should have added that. Jesus freaks, silly a title as they come. Dang it, I forgot the word as. That's why it sounds weird. Jesus freaks,
'Cause now
as
it
silly
just
as they
sounds like you're
come.
talking about the Pharisees.
And yet, I recommend every young man, every young man look into the stories within. Most were martyrs, but some were missionaries, adding strategy to their struggle in nations in open rebellion to the kingdom of heaven. There were the men who walked backwards in the snow-laden Siberian mountains to confuse the Soviet border guards as they smuggled Bibles into the Soviet Union to keep the word of God alive behind the curtain. And they obviously did a pretty good job considering how strong the Coptic Church is these days. Another man in Indonesia took after David himself, and whenever he was accosted on the road by Muslims, he would act insane till they let him go. Yeah, if you ever really, if you're ever tempted to view Muslims too positively, I want you to read about Islam in Indonesia. Okay? Or is it Malaysia? One of those island nations in the Pacific. They have done the nastiest things in the modern era that you can ever
Indonesia's
imagine.
really bad.
Yeah, it's Indonesia. And I remember shocked reading the dates these events were taking place and realizing they were like modern day. And no one talked about, I was a missionary son. No one told me about all these missionaries and other people dying in Indonesia, getting tortured and having their kids slaughtered. They particularly aimed for the Christian kids, by the way. That's how nasty they were. That is the real face of Islam. And that's the face that we're going to see again as time goes on. But, we won't have to see that. Europe will. We should crown our blessings that they didn't have time to bring enough Muslims over here. Though I suppose if they did, we would have seen this interesting infighting between the Aztecs and the Muslims. I don't know who would have won that. That would have been a fascinating, on the sidelines kind of struggle to see, whoa. The problem, of course, is, as we brought up, in those situations where the devil's minions fight each other, they always kill you first and then fight each other. That's just how they work. It's just life. Tolkien brought it up in the best way possible when he highlighted the fact that the orcs were always wanting to kill each other, but a will would push them to go fight evil first, or fight good first. That's how it works. The Tolkien was expressing how evil functions. They tend to hate each other, but they'll always work together to destroy what is good every single time. So, maybe the Aztecs and the Muzzies would have fought if enough of the Muslims have been brought over, but all the Christians would have been killed first or driven into little enclaves where they thought they were no longer a threat. I'm sorry. That would be an interesting apocalypse book one day. But we'll get back into this. Where did I read my hair? Okay, yeah. Other stories come from history, such as the Battle of Lepanto, where the Christian rowers were freed and blessings of God were strived for. But more accurate cannons and technology were implemented as well, giving the Christians an edge in the conflict that decided the fate of the Mediterranean Sea. A man need not become a martyr unless called, but sometimes God calls us to do more than simply facing his enemies, as 2 Samuel 5 showed, where the Almighty told David to implement the strategy to go get behind his enemies. Young man of God, young men of God, I should say, we are called to give our heart, body, soul, and mind to the kingdom of heaven. All of our gifts go to our struggle. Miracles will come. Other times, force of arms will be blessed. Still other times, stratagems. Others, cloak and dagger tools at play. All must be used because our enemy is merciless. He holds nothing back. No tactic, no act. Nothing upsets his sensibilities, and so every form of abomination and trickery will be used against us. So, like God the Father himself, as we mentioned in early lessons, hiding his plans from the enemy and changing strategies on the fly, so must we be flexible and adapt to the attack at hand. The coming struggle will be bloody, harsh harsh and vicious, since the enemy was denied his prize once more, and Christendom, the kingdom of heaven on earth, still stands. God is with us, and if we will not give in to the fear, none will stand before the Almighty's wrath through us. So take your Savior's advice. Don't be a fool, and beat the serpents at their own games, even as we like Jesus, we flip the tables and burn the game to the ground. That is an important point. You'll notice through the whole description of the Bible that God basically plays the legal game, going right up to the resurrection. He plays. Shut up, I can't. He's hungry. Okay, he hasn't eaten yet. Damn cat. Hey, that was an important moment, meow frame. He just looked at me.
He said it quieter.
It's really funny.
It's funny when the animals talk back.
Yeah.
Not just the kids.
Other animals do talk back to me. It's pretty funny. I don't think they fully understand what's going on, but it looks really funny when they talk back. But yeah. Distracted. Right. God plays the legal game of power and spirituality for the entire Bible, leading up to Jesus Christ's death on the cross and resurrection. All right, what is that? As I brought up, it's a ceremony. It's like a ritual crafted over thousands of years till the ultimate sacrifice, and the devil's tricked into falling right into the God's hands, right into that contract, if you will, where he dies and all sins are thus forgiven, and the devil's power is broken on earth, allowing Jesus Christ and his followers to overcome him as long as we're willing to fight and pray. If that makes sense. God played that legal game that the devil's been playing this whole time, right? The whole they sinned in such and such a way, they deserve destruction, blah, blah, blah. You can't, you know how he's legalistic in the way he does it. The devil, what is the term in modern America, right? The contract demons, if you will. It's ingrained in everyone's, with the crossroad demon, right? Mm-hmm. Signing it and you're stuck forever. Well, that's a lie, of course. Jesus Christ has broken all of that. There might have been a time, but now Jesus Christ, through that whole thing, has broken all of those powers. See, you played the game up until the point where God, Jesus Christ, flips the game board over, lights it on fire, it smacks everyone in the face and goes, "We'll be back, bitches." And they all know they will be back, and that's when they really get slapped. That's when the punishments come. Jesus Christ, when he goes down to Sheol and takes the gates of Hades and hell and death, wears those things. What is he doing? He's going down to the trapped watchers, whose entities we contend with to this day, right? The ones who are imprisoned beneath the earth, the ones that were imprisoned for making the Nephilim and the first giants and all that. And he's basically telling them, "I won, bitches, and when I come back, you're going to die. See ya." And then he goes up to heaven. I mean, that's cold, dude. That's really cold. That's intense. That is a revenge that transcends all time. That is the most epic revenge of the world. That puts every 80s revenge flick to shame. Like, this goes all the way back to the garden. And he's told them right then what he was going to do. "I'm going to crush your fucking head. I'm going to create someone who's going to crush your head. And then you're going to get fucking ruined. And I'm coming back. See ya. And they go, holy shit! We gotta kill all the humans, man. Oh crap! If we kill all the humans, then he'll come down. There'll be nothing to stop him. What do we do? Let's kill enough of the humans so they never do anything, and they're always rebellious to God. Okay, yeah. Oh, it's working. Great. Flood. Shit. We gotta do it again. And then the Messiah comes. They're like, holy crap! He's here, guys. It's The Office is one of the most boring shows I've ever experienced. However, it makes the best memes of my life. The memes are hilarious. You actually watch the show, and then you take out the laugh tracks and all the people trying to laugh around you. Like if you watch people who like it, you realize it's not that funny, but there's like instances of hilariousness in it. And don't give me that crap that it's trying to emulate what it's like to be in an office. Shut up. They're not being artistic. They're not being artistic. They just accidentally fell into that because they suck. But the point is, you remember, you've probably seen this meme, this like a YouTube short or something of like they're like yelling, "It's happening!" and they're like breaking stuff and running around and freaking out. It's That was what they were doing when Jesus Christ came onto the scene. Because remember, at this point, they thought Herod got him. Right? Remember when Herod, we're going to talk about that eventually too, kills all the babies in Bethlehem? They thought they got him. And then suddenly 30 years later, he pops up and they're like, oh shit. Right? Think of how terrified the demons are whenever they talk to him. Whether they're like, are you here to throw us in hell? Is it time? Holy, is it the day of the Lord? Fuck. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what they're doing every time they interact with him. Every freaking time. And more and more, like you can see the devil and his minions. Are you stealing coffee from me?
I'm borrowing it.
How are you going to give it back?
Don't ask.
Brown chicken. Wow. Anyway. Right, and you see this like slow build up as the devil's like working up everyone to say, okay, we're going to fight back. We're going to win him at his own game. We have the legalistic stuff here. He has to let this happen, blah, 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 right? First, they try to corrupt him. That doesn't work. They're like, oh, shit. Then they like build up. Hey, maybe we can kill him in this legalistic way, and they'll let us do it. Oh, let's do that. Do it. They was like, hey, we won. Yeah. And then Jesus comes back and says, bitches, when I come back, I'm going to take a sword out of my mouth. You're all going to die like men and be cast into the fire. See ya. Shit. And cue thousands of years of panic. Thousands of years of panic.
You thought the Trump thing was bad?
Exactly. Imagine that like by 1 billion times. I like the demons going, are you here to torture us? Put us in the pigs. Jesus goes, over there. Over the cliff, you pig. Exactly. You swine. Classic. Good times. Anyway, I should probably get to my questions. I just like to point out to people how the Bible is a giant revenge story of God slowly and inevitably bringing about judgment on all his rebellious sons. It takes thousands and thousands of years, a flood, all kinds of shit. But he gets them there, and they're stuck. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
All
right. Question 1. Have you ever seen a time in history where you wish the faith... Oh, you ever read about a time in history? Well, there's a lot of... I think to correct more. I must have been tired when I'd made this. Where you
see it written in writing.
Sometimes you have to read it all, though. Have you ever seen a time in history where you wish the faithful had been more cunning when dealing with the devil's children and minions? What about in your own life? So for me, I've brought this up a lot, but World War I, World War II, oh my gosh, it bothers me so much. Especially World War II. There's this brief time where World War I vets come back, right? And they find the political system is completely corrupt. They have arms, they have training, they have organization. And in a couple of cases, they actually just walk in, take over the voting ballots, like, and take their share of, like, there was one town in, I think it was Tennessee, where they would go in, they capture the sheriff, they put everyone under arrest, they grab all the guns from the armory, and basically say, no, this election is going to be done properly. It became a big thing, and it almost spread. But the idiots actually told every other, like, because a bunch of different towns, a bunch of other vets who had just come back from World War I were like, yeah, we want to do this too. And the idiots in Tennessee told the other people not to do it. Told the other vets to stand down. Like, no, it's just for this one particular moment. You realize they almost had the backing for a complete armed insurrection that could have destroyed everything we see in our modern government. All of it was in place back then. They had the guns, they had the manpower, they had the organization, they had the bond of brothership because they just all come back from World War I. And by the way, I think this is also why we see a lot of organizational changes after this, because the other side is smart, as I brought up, and they went, shit, they could kill us right now. And if it wasn't for the fact that lie, my cat? What was that? That wasn't even a meow, you idiot. What the hell was that? Dude, anyway.
Meow.
And anyway, just that annoying bug. That bug that they put in the back of every kid's mind. You've heard it. You know how they gushed over George Washington refusing to become king, right? That's the bug I'm talking about. The bug that they put in every American's mind that tells them that they can never use force of arms in politics ever for any reason whatsoever, even as the powers that be constantly do it. Constantly kill whoever they want. All the time. Right? Use force, shoot people's dogs, change the laws on the fly. Oh, no, we can't release the list of all the people who went to the rape island. That might make you want to do something about it. I bring Epstein up a lot, but I don't want people to forget about it, and they're already forgetting about it, and it pisses me off. It's worse than forgetting. You know what it is? It is willful forgetting. They are trying to forget. They don't want to see it, and it pisses me off. Like, I bring it up in conversation, and you know what happens? Zip, everyone gets really quiet and looks away from me because they have nothing to say. They have no counterpoint, but they don't want to see it, and they don't want to talk about it. So it's just wait till the conversation changes. Oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. Bitches. Makes me a little angry. Some of the times I understand the prophets more than I should, and I'm not a prophet. Oh, defenestration, something like that. You guys know the English word that was popularized in a few TV shows where you throw people out of windows. It's great.
Mainly politicians.
High windows, by the way.
So
Defenestration.
Defenestration. Great again.
Someone write it in the chat if you know it. Anyway. That was another tangent within a tangent within. Yeah, defenestration. Thank you, Arcanes. I knew.
Defenestration. Make defenestration great again.
Defenestration, yes. Excellent. It bothers me to no end. And it bothers me because I know that like even things I'm like, exactly. And they'll squeal like pigs too. It'll be great. He's not needing the bathroom, is he?
I'm in that one. I am. Man, forgot about cat litter.
Don't ask. Anyway, what bothers me the most about that is when I researched Epstein stuff, I found out about more stuff and found out about historical cases of very similar tendencies. One in Belgium, for example, involving a castle. Very similar, even down to a guy dying in prison who was being turned to flip on everybody. Though it turns out that I used to say it was Epstein, but no, I found out it was a Weinstein. Still close enough. Well, it is a little different. The syllable makes a difference, damn it. But the fact that we forgot all about that, we forgot about the satanic panic, we forgot about all that crap, tells me that eventually they'll make everyone forget about Epstein Island too. And that pisses me off. And the fact that I know why it happens now, because people forcibly, even though they see it, forcibly push it away so they don't have to look at it, and eventually they can forget about it. It's not just that they're being distracted by flashy things. No, it's that people actively push it away. So, and then actively push you away if you ever bring it up because they don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned more about midwits in the last couple of years than I care to mention. But in a way, I'm happy. It's nice to know. It's nice to not have a stupid, imbecilic view of humanity and expect things from them that I shouldn't be expecting. Nonetheless, it pisses me off. And I know a lot of it's actually because of boomers and kind of because boomers have the reins of power over the culture right now in a lot of ways. Not as much anymore. Like Gen Xers decided in the last election. There's a reason why Trump won.
This election.
Yeah. And that's great, but they still have, there's too much of a grasp on the culture. And because of that, that pushes all the women in a certain direction. Like, do you ever wonder why, you remember even like when Vox was talking about in the Sigma game, the things that all women care about, one of them was caring about the planet. They don't actually care about the planet. It's just the culture's told them to do that, and women tend to follow the culture. That's it. All those women freaking out because Trump won is because they haven't adapted like a school of fish to the new cultural norm yet. Right? They're still in that boomer paradigm right now. And so, take from that what you will. It's not so much that they're insane people as much as
people that will
their followers
watching a game
mm-hmm.
and they will wait for whatever side is in the lead.
That's a good
at
example.
That moment.
But
that's useless.
Yes and no, because it's more like they think that side that they're on should win no matter what. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And everyone, because if we go into like, women needed the community around them to help them with children and all that. If we get on the psychology stuff. Yes, I know. You're an independent woman. I get it.
I didn't get the help I needed. Okay?
I know. You had to.
You got to adapt
accordingly. And you were a unique woman.
Push to stuff.
Dealing with this weirdo, she is unique. There's a reason why I only ever dated her. Okay? There were other options. Thank God they never ever worked out. I'm happy about that now. I wasn't back then. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, why do I suck at this dating thing so bad? What is this? Oh man. Really? You're gonna get jealous of those bitches now?
No.
But I saw it all over. This is the funny thing about Apex Predators, man. She is a really self-aware one too. Like, she's embarrassed as she realizes it.
I realized I was probably playing with this.
These women never stood a chance. She's just mad at them because they flirted with me a bit. I flirted back ineptly because I
did it again.
Like, I'm really happy I never dated any of these women. Do you see this right now? This is hubris. But imagine if like dating had happened, or God forbid I'd slept with one of them. I think she would. Look at that. She would have killed one of those chicks. They would have died.
Their apartments.
Thank God that he made sure nothing happened. Not by my choice, I admit. That was a bad situation. I should have never put myself in that situation. Down girl, nothing happened. I was too inept. I didn't understand how to be around women back then. I was learning. I'm not just crushes Rick. I freely admit sometimes when I notice this happening, I might get her more jealous for entertainment value. I sometimes feel bad about that afterwards, but it's
just what else I'm gonna do.
Funny. Other times I'm caught with my pants down when this happens, which that's a poor term mentally. I'm never actually pantsless. And this, dang it, I walked into that hole. There ain't any way out. The point is, she caught me unawares. Like, I remember the first time we were teaching Sunday school. One of the 10-year-old girls.
I was just for our own daughter's sake. I swear.
Right. We didn't have a daughter yet.
I was pregnant. It was for her sake.
You know that comic where like Apex's girlfriend is like watching Apex play with the little girl, and the other lady's like, "Oh, look, he's so good with children." And the Misty or whatever goes, "Is it bad that I want to rip out her eyeballs right now?" That literally happened. A 10-year-old was like climbing on me, and she kind of lost her mind. I thought that was like it actually happens. Like, it's not her fault. There's like something in her genetic code that loses her mind a little bit, and I find that entertaining. Again, right?
I don't get jealous when our daughter climbs on you. Not at all.
Family obviously doesn't count to your genetics, wife. And me being cute with the daughter just solidifies your position in my life. So I'm pretty sure.
I know. I'm just saying that 10-year-old
like
was taking the place of our daughter.
Like, this is why all those like calm British guys like marrying the Ukrainian refugees or whatever, right? Why that is such a bad idea. Like, those British dudes have no idea what they're getting into.
Deltas.
They have no idea what they're getting into with those women. Ukrainian chicks don't mess around. These Slavs, man, they've been dealing with Mongols, Muslims, invasions from Vikings. They do not mess around.
With the potato famine.
They will murder They will murder these other chicks for looking at their man wrong. It's bad. Oh, and mine's self-aware. Imagine you marry a Slavic chick who's not aware of it. Like, most chicks are not aware of these things. Like, are you getting jealous right now again, or just
no?
You were making the face.
I'm perfectly calm. I am calm as can be.
Anyway, that's what I was trying to say. This is kind of off topic, but my wife and I had to butt heads significantly for a little while there.
When?
When we were learning how to live together, wife. And I was learning how to take charge of the relationship properly. There were some serious power struggles there, which, hilariously, she wanted me to win. I know that now. She knows that now. But I had to really win. And I had to figure out what the fuck was going on and why this was happening and why, And that sounds really vague.
I didn't make it easy on you either.
Nope. See, when I'm just saying, I don't have to do that anymore. And again, the violence isn't targeted at me, Skydog. It's at the other women. The other women who aren't in my life at all anymore. And like, the second she came into my life, I didn't have any other women in my life. It was just her. I think, honestly, I'm surprised. Looks at the Pringles can. It's in one piece, I think.
It's kind of dented.
Notice again, I'm not the Pringles can. The Pringles can to her when she was crushing it was the other women. Particularly those chicks who honked at me while I was running. You should have seen
They didn't just honk at you.
See?
They honked in a different way at you. They sounded like geese in a nut can.
You weren't there. You
told me. You made the sound they made.
Wife, I think you've created this scene in your head one too many times.
How many times? How many different ways am I gonna get them? Yeah, maybe. You know what? I'm perfectly cool with that.
It's a really good thing that I'm one of the loyal Sigmas, if you know what I mean. Jake and Skydog. Like, they're...
I even got jealous that you and your sister singing in the kitchen when we were visiting them. I can't control it.
You should go get your cat out of the bathroom.
And throw it at them?
I
Yeah.
don't know. I should probably get to the next question. Oh gosh. I'm really glad I'm not an alpha, by the way. Because, like, if I had that weird, uncontrollable urge that, like, David had to just chase after all the pussy around him, not only would they be dead, I'd probably be dead. Like, Oh, hi. Oh, hey, pussy. Oh, yep. There he goes every time. Cat balls in everyone's face.
He's just letting you know.
Oh, man. Just like for me, it's just funny because I don't have an excessive urge to go chase out of my butt. Here it is. Yeah. And
You were talking about us learning to live together and
Oh, you
how
want me to
much you
continue
had
on?
to work. Well, it's
yes,
because every time you interrupt me, I get mad at you. Then we'll be interrupting each other trying to finish the original thought.
because we were very
And we'd
stubborn.
never be able to finish the
Well-
original thought.
Our worst arguments when we were both right.
That's true.
Those were the worst arguments.
And we know we're both right.
Have you
They're
ever,
very logical arguments too, I might add. Very.
for a woman, you're pretty logical. That's setting the bar pretty low. But for a woman, you're pretty
Still.
logical. And you've been around me too much, so it's kind of rubbed off.
Well, it's better than
And what particularly would happen would be, it's hard to describe on the fly.
you're not passive aggressive.
Well, okay. For the men out there who are younger than Skydog. I couldn't help it. There was this moment where I had to take leadership in our relationship. And being it's gonna always be too soon, my man. But there's this point where most women are going to test you. Now, every woman's going to do it a little differently. But something that I think will help all men, especially you young men, always take responsibility. Because even if your wife made a mistake, and that mistake is something that everyone in the house is paying for,
Oh gosh, those.
generally, she only made the mistake because you didn't make the mistake for her, which sounds like really no, like, i.e., she stepped up because you weren't making decisions,
And she
made the wrong decision,
But she needed someone to make a decision
and she
for her.
and my wife, being that she came from a household with very kind of low on the totem pole males, highest being Delta, lowest being very
No one can say
Gamma.
mom to mom. No
One
can-
becoming a tranny eventually. None of them, the very overbearing mom. That's the adopted family, by the way. She was very used to taking charge of stuff. And me,
you know,
coming
just to
from
say
a
no.
very, like, family generally just left me to do my own thing, I was pretty passive about things. Not in a, like, I'm low end, but no, it was more like, I just didn't care. Like, you know, if I just want something, I'm like, yeah, okay, get it done. What do I care about? Whatever. Do it this way. I'm done. I'm out. I'm doing the things I care about. You know, why are we talking about this? And that would, but to a woman, that looks like weakness. Okay. And this is definitely something that's not like, oh, he's weak. No, it's, oh, I got to do this because man not doing it. That makes sense.
He hates doing this.
And, you know, and then I'd be like, oh, you want to do it? Okay. I didn't really want to do it anyway. Go ahead. That was my perspective. But that was bad because I needed to take lead in these situations. And when I didn't, it always led to this argument where I would be tempted to be passive aggressive. Like, well, if you just let me do it, I would, right? But no, it should have never been me let her do it or her let me do it. What are you talking about? If I'm the leader, she's not going to let me do something. I'm going to do it. And if she gets in the way, I'm going to lead and say, get out of the way. I'm going to do it. And a woman wants you to get to that spot where you can tell her, get behind me, woman. Metaphorically and literally sometimes. It's particularly a really strong-willed woman. We'll get to this position where she wants you to be doing something, but because she's so used to doing it herself, she's going to
so
do it
long.
herself. She might even start taking things out of your hand.
Because of the anxiety buildup.
And and she's freaking out because she knows this stuff needs to get done, but you're not doing it. And you got to take the lead, even if it means you make a mistake, and you got to own up to the mistake. And yes, if she takes the lead and makes a mistake, it's still your mistake. And I know a lot of low tier males, especially gammas, will freak out about that. But no, it's your mistake because you should have taken the lead. Right. The second she took the lead, you made a mistake. You should have been the one in the head. You should have been making the decisions. You should have been the one taking the risk of making a mistake. And that's why gammas often piss off women, because they make the woman make the decision, and then they have the nerve to be passive aggressive about when things go wrong. And women hate that shit. Honestly, not just women. Everybody hates that shit. Okay? Like, if you're not man enough to take the leadership position, you have no business critiquing the leader. Okay? I don't know if I spent too much time on this. We have other questions to get to. This has been a long tangent.
Yeah, this is good. You get a little bit of dating advice here.
Yeah, it's true. It was unexpected dating advice, and I probably should have finished all the questions before I allowed it to come. But
you're
there
having
you go.
Too much fun with the Apex.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Yes, this is what a high quality woman is like, by the way, especially from specifically. She's very aggressive. All right. God chose a man for her who has no inkling towards marital. Like, Vox often talks about how Sigmas tend to make their own code. When I was young, I made a very specific code based on God's will, but also very intently on no cheating whatsoever. Want one lady. I prayed to God specifically. I wanted to date my wife and only her. And he listened to my prayer to the point where he frustrated my attempts to dating the other women that he didn't want me to marry. That was actually pretty funny. I fell hook, line, and sinker into that trap, man. It's like dug my own hole, and God threw a casket on my head and then said, wait there for 10 years till she comes. And let me tell you, I tried to get out of that hole. I dug every which way and every possible angle, and God was always there, like with a shovel, waiting to smack me whenever my head came. Smack back in the hole with you. But God, we're not ready yet. You prayed for this. And golly, I'm going to answer it, whether you like it or not.
Ironic, he got out of the hole at my mom's funeral.
This is true. Finally, let me to the right. And but it's funny in retrospect. I think I did ignore God's pleas or even demands, saying no, not this one, no, not this one. Literally, that moment brought it back to David. How about that? Where David and his brothers are all there, and Samuel's like, God's leading Samuel to the right one to anoint, and each one's like strong, handsome, and he's like, oh, surely this one's the king, and God says, no, not that one, not that one, not that one. I see the heart, you don't. Shut up, go to the kid over there. That was what God was doing with this woman. I was like, God, look at this one, she's so pretty, she's like, I like her, let's go. And God's like, no, I see the heart, you don't see the heart, she's not here yet, get moving. Oh my God, stop it. It's pretty funny, actually. And then one day, God's like, what are you doing in that woman's apartment? Get out, you idiot. But God, shut up, you horny pervert. You prayed for this. By golly, I'm going to answer it. I can imagine my guardian angel, whichever angel was in charge of making sure that prayer got answered, was very exasperated.
I want to hear the progress report of that.
Man, I wonder if I'll ever meet him or her. Wouldn't it be funny if it was like a feminine spirit of some kind? Like, is the spirit of chastity a feminine spirit?
Was it an apex?
That would be funny. And like I get to heaven one day and like one of the angels just like slaps me. Like what the heck? You!
Power.
You! Me! 10 years of this shit. When she was there the whole time, and if you would just
It was funny how I went to your dorm room in college, and neither of us.
We don't
Looked at each
remember
other.
seeing each other.
It was like there was a blanket between us.
Because there was you gotta understand.
My brother
Her-
was your roommate.
Yeah, and my wife was a late bloomer, mostly because her
I was
mother
thinking.
was actively covering up her beauty in a kind of a very negative way. But there was this time where she really blossomed, and this was about the time she
She
visited
can
my
cover
dorm
it.
room. Before that, she was just a gangly kid to me because she's a few
With
years
the-
younger. And let me tell you, like she made her
I
wear
was
socks on her hands. She had horribly big glasses. Her hair was shorn.
It was short,
She-
like up to here.
Yeah.
I had braces on my teeth. I looked like a turtle.
Yeah,
I was a turtle.
You
I
acted like a
I
turtle.
wore like.
she looked like she was.
It was horrible.
You were a ninja turtle. You were energetic like Raphael and all that. It was like a female ninja turtle bouncing around the house. And then there's like this point where and I remember seeing the picture. Like once I noticed her and we were dating, I like, went back through her pictures. There's like this point
Yeah,
where
it
it's
was-
like turtle and then
No.
sexy model. I'm like
no,
what?
no,
When
no.
did this
that
happen?
it I saw your face when you saw me at my mom's funeral.
Yeah,
I
well,
saw that
pew.
face.
I saw your face too.
Mhm.
I don't know what that said. You guys read the recent Sigma game? Oh yeah, I held that gaze good at a funeral. And then I felt a little shamed because I realized because then my dad told me who she was and that her mom had just died. And I'm like, oh,
It was like
maybe I shouldn't be flirting with
it
her.
was the fifth funeral for me. The first one for my
The
brothers.
fifth one for the same person.
for
by
the same
way.
person. I mean,
Yes, and I distracted her. She enjoyed that. But I will have you all know I didn't make a proper move till she'd gotten over some of it. I might have picked her up at the funeral, but I did it respectfully. I actually pulled it off. I did it very respectfully. I did like, hey baby, you emotionally unstable? No, I didn't do any of that.
yeah, my parents put tube socks.
She
in my
made a
hands.
fart joke. Which
No, I
was,
didn't.
yes, you did. You did the Mexican bouncing beans
I
joke.
was talking
You that
about-
lame ass refried beans bouncing as you watch the Mexicans bury your mother's ashes. You make
They
a
ran,
refried bean fart joke.
they ran out of gas, bumping the ground. They couldn't.
And that's when I decided I should marry that girl.
That's like-
Yeah, the socks on the hands arcanes was because of all the anxiety drugs and stress they were putting on her.
It
She
caused me
was
to scratch a lot.
And rather than maybe take her off the drugs, which actually had a side effect of itching, they instead upped the drugs and put socks on her hands so she couldn't itch.
I mean, it was.
I'm rather
scratchy.
unhappy
Yeah.
about this now. Now that I'm older, I didn't realize what was going on when I was younger. Not that there wasn't much I could have done. But now that I'm older and we've slowly brought, as trauma tends to be, over the years, why my wife has been able to share it and process it herself and realize what it was.
Well, it's funny. It's in those practices, it comes out as anger. You'll be like, "Why are you mad?"
This was another thing I had to learn. This is something different. About
All
my
emotions
way.
came out as anger.
I don't know if it's a Slavic thing, but in my wife's case, I suspect it's like running away from Mongols because like fear and like crying, all that stuff, right? That just makes it harder to run away from
I
the
just
Mongol.
look angry.
So whenever a negative emotion happens, she just gets mad. And she could be sad beyond belief, like broken on the inside, but she will yell like a banshee, and you'll be like, "What in the hell is going on? Why are you mad at me? I just came home." And yeah. Eventually, I figured it out, and I would.
You okay now?
Yeah, I would eventually drag it out of her. Okay, what is the real problem, woman?
Like that Sigma game.
Yes, it's true.
Leave
I
me
laughed.
alone
When,
until I
when
figure it
Vox
out.
brought that up, I cracked up and I brought Katie over to the computer. Everything, we both laughed really hard. But yes, that image of a overactive, hyper mini female Ninja Turtle. That was my wife 1 year. And then I kid you not, there was like a period of 1 or 2 years where she went from that to supermodel. It was the craziest change in my life. It blows my mind to this day. That change. And I realize
only hide beauty so much before it's
it shows.
just shows.
Unless you're the
You really
full
got that,
Muslim
yeah,
thing, or
yeah.
you like. But she wasn't willing to go that far. Thank God.
Yeah, I wouldn't let my mom go that far.
And God, this is random.
I'm sorry.
No, this is
No.
fun, but it was.
Yeah, we got 2 questions.
We got
left.
2 more questions, but I feel like we had the
It
tangent
is still funny though. Laughing
at your mom's funeral of all things.
butt of the joke.
It's true. Yeah. Anyway, we could say that part of the reason, besides the fact that she was physically attracted to me, I was also the only person that realized at the funeral that she needed a distraction. She was tired of everyone reminding her of her mother's death, it being her 5th funeral. I provided a nice distraction without taking advantage of her, which is what led to her realizing I was a good dude. Because there was another guy in her life, instantly
A month later,
another Sigma, who would take advantage of that state and assaulted her, but luckily didn't get all the way. I was 10,000 miles away at the time. Her father was away on a trip.
I was 2 hours before picking up my dad from the airport.
The point I'm trying to get on with that is she went with me because I did it in a way that didn't take advantage of her. She was smart enough to realize which guy was taking advantage of, which guy wasn't. Most chicks aren't smart enough to figure that out. That's why I married her. Like my stupid feminist sister, and I almost like she's an idiot. All right, she still tries to claim that the dudes who took advantage of her after her divorce at the bars and stuff that she had sex with, still tries to claim that she was like, oh, I wanted this. No, you were stupid. And they took advantage of you. They recognized that you were fresh out of a divorce and you were looking for anyone to give you that intimacy you craved. And they gave it to you, baby. And women, if there is any women who watch these, men, there are men out there that are experts at recognizing you when you're weak. When you're at a weak and emotional state, they know what you look like. They know what you sound like. They see all the signs, and they know exactly what to say to you, right? Because women in a distressed state all act the same, even unique ones like my wife. No offense, my wife, you really do.
None taken.
Yeah, and so you can apply the same pattern to virtually any woman in that state, and it's disgusting. And yes, if I ever get a hold of some of these men, they're not going to get any food from my stockpile in the apocalypse, let me tell you. And there might be a few more skulls in my pyramid.
They might end up being the food for your pigs.
Anyway, hi. Hey, let's get to the questions. Now that it's funny, you showed your aggressive. I just showed my both of our aggressive sides came out. Why do you think so much attention is given to David's indiscretion?
Oh.
Indiscretion. Damn, that was Google's instant correct. That one with Bathsheba and not his other listed sins and mistakes. Why the concentration on Goliath and not the rest of the king's exploits? Ooh. So the answer, in my opinion.
Oh, I know why we need keycaps. I sacrificed like it too much.
Well, I didn't ask about your kneecap, so.
Sorry.
Can I finish the question?
Go.
You sure?
Go.
Go.
Yeah, go. Go. I'm sorry.
In my opinion, it's because David's other big sin highlights their the fact that sins can affect other people, and thus leadership sins, say a pope who screws male prostitutes, affects the entire church. The Satanist pope, whether you think he's the actual pope or not, is in the hands of power of the Catholic Church, and his sins reflects on the entire Catholic Church. Just like my parents' denominations had multiple heads, sins reflect very negatively on them, and thus they have lost the next generation of would-be participants in their denomination, as they should. They deserve to die out as the denomination for these sins. Not saying that the Catholic Church and that denomination couldn't redeem themselves. And I will say that though I have my issues with the Catholic bros, I respect their passion, and they will redeem the Catholic Church in one way or another one day. But the my denomination that my parents came from, I see no signs of them ever redeeming themselves. There's no sign of it whatsoever. Nothing. No one. No. And the concentration on Goliath and not the rest of the king's exploits is because a lot of David's exploits are very violent and not as easy. Oh, this person mocked God. That's why he got his head cut off. Right? You can kind of get around that and concentrate on the miracle of the small guy fighting the big guy. It's a lot harder to concentrate on all the slaughtering of entire villages and things. I'm going to move on. Question 3. Young men, you are the future leaders and kings of your nations. Knowing that your sins will reflect on your people, what will you do to go above and beyond to curb your sins before they become destructive for all those around you? Fathers, I think, should also think of this question as much as possible, because you are responsible of your own families. My dad's sins of tolerance in the family and basically picking strangers over my own sisters when they needed him has shattered my family utterly, completely. Before that, my grandpa's sins of essentially selling all our property in California and going off to live life high and wild for an old guy, away from family, shattered my dad's side of the family horribly. I still don't know any of my cousins at all. Most of my cousins don't share the Dowdy last name anymore. All of my uncles are divorced. Yeah. I haven't. One of my uncles met Katie. He didn't even look at her. He didn't even look at my baby. My first baby was there, and
Didn't want to talk about your dad and how he and your dad ordered the same thing from Starbucks. And they weren't even at the same Starbucks.
yeah, and that's my family on that side. And yeah, and that's basically them. They're shattered all over the place, horribly. And my grandpa's sins led to that 100%. The lack of leadership in that household after my uncles all were out of the house directly led to that. They went from men who all had wives and children and stable livelihoods to shattered shells of themselves with no wives, no children. Well, children, but children who didn't really interact with them anymore.
Didn't care about them anymore.
Yeah. And it's kind of a shocking transformation, to be honest. And then
I mean, at least he tried.
it's true. He did do his best to rectify things at the end. And that's one of the things that I forgave him for and all the rest. But I really think it does lead back to that decision he made to sell the family property and then go out east. Like, it's not like he went. It's funny too. It's not like he went to Hawaii or something. He went to his version of Hawaii. He loved to fish, so he went to Arkansas. That's hilarious, I know. But when he went there, had a really nice house right on the woods, fish on a lake every day, married another woman. And yeah, that lack of anchor, that property being taken away from the family, I think that was the big one. Because there was no anchor anymore. At least one of my uncles did own land. That was actually an interesting story because they found a rare fish in his pond. And so he got all this money to keep the fish alive in it. And every now and then he could sell like big money tickets for people to go fish the fish. I remember that. He also put like a little like a driving range on his property. It was really cool. In the middle of the desert is like a little golfing driving range. And we're talking like not like California desert on the west side of the mountains that has, it's desert, but it's brush and there's lots of things. Like there's lots of things that burn, right? But it's like high desert, nothing but rocks and crap everywhere. No plants. Well, there were some plants. I take that back. There were some plants, but it was really rocky and deserty. And then there's just this green patch and then a hole like down the ways. That's really cool. I still remember the one time I interacted with my cousin back before that family, he got his divorce and that property got sold off and everything else. We tried to make a Lego helicopter out of some engines that actually worked. It almost flew and bounced around a bunch. It was too heavy, though. That was a lot of fun. Anyway. The things Thank you, dog. Thank you. The things I've seen in my own family have shown me the importance of anchor points and the sin of selfish desires. The sin of, is it the right sin? The sin of pushing off responsibilities. I need a right name for it, but it's like the boomer sin in many ways. The selling of the inheritances and all that. The destruction of anchor points, of houses, of memories. The selfish discard of those things. Like, think about what the boomers have sold. They're not selling their childhoods. They're selling your childhoods. They're destroying your childhood homes. Their childhood homes, their parents didn't sell that off. They got to sell it off, right? Or they got to keep it and then sell it off. And when you do that, there's no home. There's nothing to go back to. And then you push the college lifestyle on everyone. And they leave their hometowns. All their friends leave.
It's always a college distance away from the same state, same whatever.
Yeah, it's rare that people go to college in the same town, let alone the same state as where they grew up. And so you combine that with the boomers selling the anchor point, the house, the physical home, the physical land. And you shatter that family's connection. That point that they would all come around to, where they would all have their barbecues, that point where they would all be a family again is no longer there. And it's never the same. Now, sometimes it's not their fault. My grandparents, for example, on the other side, they didn't sell their home. They were evicted. But it was a boomer's fault. The fucking boomer son inherited the house that they were renting and kicked them out because he wanted to make a shit ton of more money. It is another guy on my pyramid of skull lists. Maybe not a pyramid. Maybe I'll make a square tower. So
Box has the throne, so you can't use
it. I'll make a column. I like that. I like a bridge of skulls. Yes, a bridge of skulls.
They could transform them each time.
Yeah, the bridge of skulls. Nice. I like that one. Anyway, and that side of the family, though that anchor point being gone really did shatter a lot of it. It still is much more intact than my wife's family, who went through a similar situation, and my dad's family. And it's still showing some issues, but my grandma, who we named my daughter after, though she's been showing more issues lately, has always wanted to keep the family together. And even with my grandpa's passing, did her best to make that happen, which is why we named my daughter after her. That ideal of keeping the family together.
I mean, Donna literally means
Lady of the house.
Lady of the house.
It's a shame now because my grandma's getting to this point where she doesn't even understand. So that's a little sad, but it's the ideal that's more important. And
I worry that your relatives are trying to influence her.
there's only so much to be done, and God will be with her. That's what we're going to pray for. But this is strong in my mind. And it's really hard being the kind of guy I am. Right? You know, everyone who calls themselves Sigmas around, but I am that because I can tell you all the negatives. I have such a hard time building community. I have such a hard time building proper anchor points for my children. Now, it doesn't help in my current economy and everything like that. It's very hard to buy a property or get anything solid for them to anchor to. But besides that, I also know I'm having trouble. And I have to overcome that. Well, God has to help me overcome it because I'm obviously not strong enough to do it on my own.
You gotta give it to her.
It's true. And I've been praying for it and letting him do it. It just sucks that I'm still in a position where I physically can't. You know, there's still, as I saw with my grandparents, it can't be something like a rental. Because if you don't own the land, it's too easy to kick you off it. And then whether you would or not, there goes your anchor point. Again, my grandparents didn't even have a chance to pay the higher rent. He raised the rent, and then he just kicked them out. That asshole. So, I say all this because our generations, Skylar's generation, the Generation X has seen it a lot. The millennials have seen it a lot. We've seen the importance of that familial structure. More than that, in the war against evil, it's beyond important. When you say, what is that all about? Well, think about all those stories. A lot of them are crap. Think about all of those stories talking about and then he finds out, right? This is the classic Gamma trend that, his family was part of a Night Order and kept it secret, blah, blah, blah. Classic Star Wars. Jedi Knight, his father turned out to be a Shrek. What are they trying to get at? What is it that the man, especially the low-class man who has no connections, what are they getting at? They want a familial tradition of fighting evil. They want a familial structure to put themselves in. If I may give a more healthy version than those other versions I just showed you, Lord of the Rings, right? What is it with Aragorn's whole deal? Isildur dealing with the sin of his father and coming back and establishing his familial goals, his familial calling, his family's calling to his kingdom to save it from the evil that Isildur should have saved them from, but failed. Right? It's kind of a little twisted because he's rectifying his father's mistake, but because his father was the king, right, and the king's son who died on the battlefield, that's why his sin caused the problem in the first place, and why his son, another one of the king's line, had to fix it. We crave that line of warriors to go fight evil with. We crave that higher calling, that familial line of knights to go out against evil. That familial calling to be a farmer, to provide the food for that cause, to work the land against evil so chaos can't come back in. We strive for that. And without those anchor points, we have nothing. And we look for it anywhere we can, and we find nothing. That's why the anchor points are important. That's why the land is important. That's why you can't just say, it's all spiritual one, but no. God sent us after the land for a reason. And unless you establish yourself and you make those anchor points, we'll never have that generational resistance against evil that God desires out of us. Woo! Soapbox. Unexpected. Very personal and tight to home. And I hope, like us, you will put every effort to doing the same for your families. Because guess what? The boomers fucked up a lot of shit. But you know what? Jesus Christ is bigger and stronger. He's bigger than those familial sins. He's bigger than those national and those imperial sins that are hanging over our heads our entire lives through debt, for just the constant stress of those wars that meant nothing and all the evil that are coming out of that. God's bigger than it. Jesus Christ's sacrifice can wash it all away. It's not going to be easy. You know, the way is narrow, while God and Jesus Christ can overcome all of it. So start praying now. Start working now. Start praying for that legacy. Yeah. Young men, if I can sum up the last 2 hours, pray for a legacy for your children and work as hard as you can for it. And seek ye the kingdom of heaven first, because that's the best legacy you'll ever find. That's a legacy no boomer can sell, because they'll be dead long before they could even harm it. Seek the kingdom of heaven and pray for legacy. And then God will lead you to a legacy he wants you to pray for. And don't put socks on your daughter's hands. Well, this got kind of emotional on me. Yeah. I'm 2 hours in, and I feel like I need to stop because I'm starting to repeat myself.
Get the third question done.
I did, didn't I? Yeah, I did. That's what led, because it was like, how, as leaders, are you going to deal with your sins ahead of time?
Okay.
Like, imagine if David, realizing he has a weakness towards women, had gone, maybe I shouldn't look at women bathing over the city because I have a weakness towards that. Imagine how things. Imagine how much problems would have been solved.
Her because he used to be a shepherd.
I think it is the ultimate irony that a woman named Bathsheba was taking a bath.
He go bad.
And it's only ironic because it's English, right? The word for bath is not the same in the Hebrew where the term Bathsheba comes from. So it's only ironic in modern day English. Hilarious. More linguistic jokes. I love it. But imagine if King David, realizing his propensity towards female companionship, had gone, you know what? I'm not going to spend time in an area where I could see people bathing who might be female.
That's a start.
That's a smart start. It's the equivalent of the modern time of, you have a problem with pornography. Don't go anywhere. Don't go on the web in such a way that you're going to find that. And maybe even you have to take away, like for me, when I was young, when I was 11, well, it did lead to Psalm 51. So you're not surprised. Yes, that is God making something good out of something evil, right? You know what God's even better at doing? Making something good out of something good, right? God is great at salvaging a situation.
Small teddy bear in front, bigger one.
Yeah. And this is something people need to remember, right? God can make something good out of something evil, but he can make something even better out of something good. Just like his original plan for all of this, right? In Genesis 1 and all that, if the devil hadn't struck and all the rest, his original plan would have been so much more beautiful, right? He's had to adapt and overcome. He's making something good out of this evil world that became of everything. But he could have made something even better, right? If people hadn't been so rebellious and stupid. That's something people need to think about. Is yes, it is good. God can make and turn what was intended for evil and make it into something good, but he could have made something even better if there was no evil to begin with. That's something to remember. My cat is meowing on the other side of the curtains. Do you see a bear? Yeah, you tell that bear to back off. Oh, we
my
still
kitty
haven't
cat.
fed him, have we? Shoot.
Puppy, okay.
All right. I keep telling myself I'm going to end the stream, and then some tangent hits me, and I want to keep going.
They're good transients.
They are. Yes, Gato. I know you're hungry. Yeah. Maybe I can edit it now because my mind is blank for once. It has not been blank for the last 2 hours, which is really exhausting, by the way. I have constant ideas for you guys. You bastards. How dare you train me? No. I appreciate it. It's good. My job doesn't really engage my mind very much, so it's nice to have that every now and then to remind myself to think.
What? Talking to drunks doesn't make you.
Talking to boomers, yes. What riveting conversations they have. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And they're so convinced that they are the most interesting people to talk to in the world, let me tell you. Oh. I mean, on a positive note, it's easy to just feed their ego and kind of ignore them. And they just think that you're hanging on every word.
Goes,
Well, you could be a little more like, oh, that how you think? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And then you just kind of nod and wait.
Wow.
And you realize they're not even looking at your face because then they would notice how bored you are.
They did what?
Oh, really?
How horrible.
That's nice. I need to go get your food now. Can you stop talking?
The ones that bring their immigrant family members.
Oh, you mean how to spot out who was who brought their Asian Asian mistress back from Vietnam? Oh yeah, I've seen a number of those. Let me tell you, and they are not good mixes. They don't mix well at all.
Heard my joke.
They are the most awkward old couples, dude. When these little Asian women are with their obvious low end gamma to delta males who brought them back with them from Vietnam. Oh, some of it's bad.
That's horrible.
And Asian women
in Thailand, it's worse when they're over there, and
Asian women are so much more accepting of age gaps like that.
Well, yeah, because
even more than Latin. Latins don't even do that as much.
Oh, I know.
I mean, they do.
Oh, I know.
But there's just something about Asian women that'll go after that are way more mercenary.
Oh, I know.
Take Slavic women like you.
They're worse. Mercenary. They're worse than us. They're worse than.
Yeah, you tend to at least find men your own age that are rich.
I have to be strategic. It can't be too obvious.
I mean, you didn't pick a rich man. So
no, I didn't. Rich man. I told you. I just need a simple house.
Well, God's going to give you more than that. Hey, this has been fun, guys. Thanks for coming on. I should probably get off now that I'm running out of things to talk about. Or I start talking about video games or something. Which reminds me, I need to make a video game video.
I also want me too that Wednesday Friday we're putting up the latest
Saturday
recording. Oh, Saturday, not Friday.
Right, I gotta make that video.
No, we already made it.
No, I made the recording.
You made the recording.
I haven't put it to the video bit. The latest creepy episode
because we're going out of sync a little bit.
Yep. Oh, by the way, all I want for Christ is a Polaris Corvette. That thing is pretty sick. Skydog.
Christmas.
For Christ. It was funny to just say for Christ. I thought you were being facetious with that, actually. That Polaris is pretty sweet. But do you have enough people to man it? That's the question. I mean, it's got to be more than just the turrets. Ooh, I actually kind of want to make a video about squadron formations. Why not? I'm actually kind of more interested in that Starlancer TAC because, that's more what you can do for 6 or 10 people. Yeah. The wife unit would kill me if I bought that. No, you see, that's a ship you want to buy in game. Well, look, if you can craft a Bengal carrier, surely you can craft a Polaris, right? And it probably won't need as big of a facility. I bet you can make a Polaris on a planet somewhere. You and me, what's the Zygen? What all of our sons and stuff as they get older, we'll build you a Polaris in game. It'll be so much more
You know
fulfilling.
what's funny? I see us, you have sons. We have 3. That's 5.
Yeah, it's 5 sons plus
So
me and him.
plus
That's
you and him,
7.
That's 7.
See, we're getting
Get
close.
the wife units together. That's 9.
Sure.
Little Donna.
Yeah.
10.
See?
That's 10 right there.
And we have a couple of outsider ones around us, right? We could
That's true. You could get
do this.
you could get 20 really easy.
eventually.
Eventually.
Yes. Good times. Huh. I was surprised how much I liked. Did you see the videos of them playing with the Polaris, like fully crewed Polarises? Like they're actually really close to making a really cool multi-crew experience. Like I think it was the For Science. If you've ever, they're kind of a smaller YouTube channel, but they're a crazy like PvP crew. They're funny pirate dudes, but like not so much pirate. Like they're not actually trying to steal anything. They're just screwing with people. And it's hilarious. And they got ambushed while they were messing around in the Polaris and the test thing, and it actually looks a lot of fun. Like shooting size 10 volleys of size 10 torpedoes at another Polaris, and they're all like shooting the turrets and trying. It was hilarious because they kept accidentally shooting their own torpedoes as they were going out. This is more sexy than a Ukrainian crushing a Pringles can, and that's saying something. I think we should paint a Slavic lady on the outside. Like one side will be a Slavic lady, on the other side will be a Southern belle, if you know what I mean. We have to. Both wives have to be involved with this.
Oh gosh. He's not gonna have his wife on SG because he doesn't.
You mean Star Citizen pick?
No, on Star Citizen, I already added her on Star Citizen
okay.
a while back. But on SG, he won't add her on SG because he doesn't.
You need to find her on like
Oh,
whatever. She's surely
It's
on
in
some
order. I need-
feminine. Like, is she on Pinterest or something?
I don't know.
You know, our wives are gonna have to get connected at some point, Sky.
I do have
It's
her.
inevitable.
I do have her. I just when our computers actually work, I'll be able to,
They can hang out
find her.
and like I discovered because I play. I don't know if you've seen the Foxhole stuff. You should. They're adding air power to Foxhole. It's gonna
And
be
you
great.
put me to work.
I did. I put her. She enjoyed it. Look how happy she is. She's like making rockets and then shooting them up. She does have her own SC account. We'll never be on SC.
See?
Yes, I know the joke. But yeah, I discovered that she really enjoys crafting things and bases. So yeah, it's gonna happen now.
It's gonna happen.
It's too late. The lady don't protest too
You
much
know
in the
what?
comments, wife. Look at that. Never. Oh no, he's already given
I
in.
already have her SC account. That's the funny thing is he gave it to me a while
Do you
back.
realize this chick has more reputation on Social Galactic than John De La Rose? That's hilarious to me. John De La Rose has like a 30,000 subscriber
Because he
YouTube
hasn't
channel.
been-
He has like 290,000.
You gave it to me. You gave it to me, and yours included. Go back in the
There you go. There you
go
go.
back in the.
You were pointing too low. KDA doesn't post to that.
JDA doesn't.
Yeah.
Go, yeah.
KDA killed that. Whoa.
I just haven't reached out to her yet because I'm just waiting for the perfect time when my computer works.
You're so cute.
And then.
I guess I'm gonna have to actually invest when our tax return comes in. Watch out, man.
See, I have to be strategic.
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 Why, Skydog? Why? They'll squash Pringle cans together.
You'll be hearing us much.
You're gonna be doing that hi things to the hot chicks on the, and then both of them are gonna appear behind you. Oh gosh!
Sometime when we move to California.
One day, Catalina Island will be ours. Can't stop me, bitches. Skydog, you want to move to Catalina Island with me one day. It's like all nature preserve except for like 2 spots. All empty land, baby, when the empire collapses.
I hear they got bison.
They're aging population. There's not enough
They're aging
Mexicans.
bison.
There's a wild buffalo population there.
You can smoke all the meat there.
There's water and boats. Though we will have to deal with the great whites because I hear their population have gotten a little out of control because no one can hunt them anymore.
There's a lot of bison beef, right? Yeah, it's
Bison,
beef.
yes.
There's a lot of bison there.
Yeah.
Imagine the barbecues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we have access
Bison tacos.
Ooh.
Steak tacos on a whole new level. Like
That does sound delicious. We could sell bison tacos to the Russians in exchange for technology.
well, shoot. No, not Russian anymore.
It's okay. You look the part. That's more important.
I love the part. She's just a mute.
She's just very.
How long can you be quiet for?
Don't like that.
It helps you pretty.
Yeah, it's great. Just look pretty. It's good. I make a great bison chili. Ooh, see?
Ooh.
Though we're gonna need some great white recipes too, because we're gonna have to purge that population a
You
little
know,
bit.
sharks just taste fishy, just in general. Like my friend
Who
tried
would have guessed
some.
a fish?
It just tastes fish, like fish, fried fish. Fried shark tastes like fried fish.
Well, the question is, wife, is it a really fishy fish?
Or is it like a rubbery fish?
No, is it like more like grouper where it's just a really soft meat, or is it like tastes like really strong fish, like a mullet?
I don't know.
This is a very interesting
My
question.
friend wouldn't even know the difference of that.
And I would want to use more than their fins. I'm not as crazy as the
No.
Japanese and their shark fin
Amazing.
soup.
Amazing.
Or is that China?
That's China.
It's the Japanese who are killing it for the Chinese. That's right. Shark skin. I love that he's referencing Assassin's
I
Creed.
know.
I do kind of want to hang up the great white sharks like that on you. Hang them up on the boat.
Very
That
heavy
was one of the
jaws.
most manliest scenes ever. Was when you killed the big sharks or the whales and you like hoisted them up and you realized how big they were. You go, oh shit! I was stabbing that thing.
And then you gotta decorate with the shark teeth on around the rim.
To be fair, though, maybe we should hold off on the Great White Purge for a little while because, when things collapse, I imagine we're going to be dealing with a lot of Mexican raiders, and they're not that good in boats. And if there's a lot of great whites in the water, we won't have to, we'll save bullets. Yeah? Yeah? It's 30 miles between the coast and Catalina Island.
They're pretty small, aren't they? They're like 4 feet.
Oh, it took me a moment to realize what you were talking about.
Just say it. They're shorter than me.
How many Aztecs fit in a great white shark's mouth? At least 2 or 3. Woo! Hey, here's a good one. How many Hollywood pedophiles will fit in a shark's mouth? As we just found out, there's lots of great whites in between Catalina Island and Hollywood. No proof. Good times. Anyway, okay, we really need
In
to go.
Minecraft.
Assassin's Creed, obviously.
That's good.
This is
Oh,
not.
you know,
this is
the
not
one that-
PETA safe. PETA is not pleased. Man, you remember in Call of Duty 1 when they actually had to say that they didn't kill any animals in the production because there was I remember reading that in the credits, no animals were harmed in the making of this game. Like, what animals are they? And they're like, oh yeah, hide behind dead cows and certain machine gun spots. Hilarious. I made my hamburger work for a change. Stopping bullets.
That was well granted.
Oh man, the original Call of Duty was wild back in the day. Though hell, I can't really play it now anymore. I'm spoiled with the sprint option. It still blows my mind. There was a time in video games where your character couldn't run. Because apparently I'm locked to one speed, you know what I mean? And it still blows my mind. You have these Halo fanatics who are like, no sprinting. It ruins the game. It ruins the game. Yes, they've turned into Mexicans in my mind, even though they're not. They're like these really weird, nerdy white dudes who are obsessed with every cool thing in Halo not being in Halo. And then, of course, they have lots of other good ideas, but no one listens to them because they talk about this crazy shit. And they get obsessed over that one stupid thing. Like, the only reason why Halo 1 didn't have sprint is because it wasn't a thing in the video game world yet. Halo 1 was following a lot of trends. It set new trends, but it was following a lot of trends, including standard video game logic for FPS at the time, which means if it had been made a little later, it would have had sprint in it. I mean, you can argue no armor lock, I guess. I'm such a nerd.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm literally planning on like doing a 30-minute video or so where I talk about video game design in Foxhole and how I'm excited that they're doing a good job. It's great. It's a good time. By the way, you guys should try Foxhole. Like Skydog, you'd be surprised. I think you would enjoy that thing. It's hilarious. It's faction-based. There's talking between the teams VoIP, so you get to like mock their mothers as you kill them or as you die. It's almost more fun as you die to mock them.
Or
I
if
find.
they, kidnap you.
Yes, they kidnap you. It's great.
I think kill you.
It's like an alternate universe World War II kind of feel. It's fun. They have multi-crew battleships of like 30 people on them. It's great. So, you have to find a clan who's doing it, but they always need someone to hammer stuff. So. Yeah, adding in air power. Good times. You can get over the fact that it's a top-down shooter, right? Not everything can be as pretty as Star Citizen, okay? This game actually functions, though, so right amount of practicality in there, as it were. Okay. You guys need to do the like, do the subscribe, do the share. This Friday, we'll have another video game-related stream. Saturday, we'll have the next creepy stream, which, by the way, I don't know if I didn't share it right. You guys, most of you seem to have missed the last creepy video podcast. You might enjoy it, you might not. It's on a crazy aspect. The Hopi Indians have a story about demonic ant people who kidnap them and enslave them underground. But it's interesting because it's a possibility of where the Nephilim came from after the flood. Ooh. It's very fascinating. Ant people. I forget, there's like a linguistic connection to them and the
nothing good happened.
Nephilim.
Linguistics.
The heroes in oh no, it's too late. My brain's not working anymore. I poked it enough and it didn't.
Wrinkles.
Ooh.
They're like shutters.
My wife's attracted to weird things sometimes. Oh my gosh, is it almost 1 a.m. for us? Ooh.
No.
Whoa. You guys are a bad influence on me.
Well, it doesn't help that he's in California.
It's true. He's cheating.
So
he's like 3 hours.
So
I've only kept him up to like 10.
10:30, almost 11.
Bastard. The joke's been on me the whole time. Oh gosh.
So time's quicker.
Hang on. I need to finish that.
Oh, he hasn't watched it. My bad.
West Coast works.
West Coast. He went to California for the whatever you call it. Star Citizen thing. Con.
Next to hey, you're in the California territories, okay? We only made Washington because we had weird ideas about politics back in the day. That was all considered California back in the day.
Watch out for the swamp people.
Yes, there is swamp in Washington.
No, swamp is so swamped.
So there was a game I showed my wife Or I kid you not, there's like an AI voice thing, and they did a spelling error, but they didn't notice it. And of course, that meant the AI said it, and it and it was literally like swamp is so swamp. Like we assumed it was trying to like say swamp is muddy or something. Swamp at 812 feet above. Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Right. I've actually studied that area for cryptid stuff. You might want to be careful in that area, big boy. Lots of prayer over your land, lots of big guns. I call it the Freaky Hill Swamp. You know, that's actually a great name. You should probably add hell in there, like Freaky Hellish Swamp. That's accurate. We live in a swamp too, funny enough, called Tate's Hell. Yeah, they called it Tate's Hell because a guy named Tate's was trying to map it, and then he got lost in it, and then said something was hunting him the whole time, and he eventually made it out. And by the time he was out, he had white hair. I don't know how much of that story to believe, but I need to look it all up. But it must have been bad if they literally named it Tate's Hell.
Part of it be related to what we
Yes.
recorded.
So Saturday.
Oh gosh, I can't believe I even suggested this. It's so out of my comfort zone.
Saturday, we talk about a particular entity that is very fascinating for anyone
it's like
who lives in the continental United States.
Feminists.
Anyway,
Ooh.
yes, a feminist spirit, an evil demonic thing. Ooh. Good times. Saturday. I would like to get a video up Wednesday that would be video game related. Hopefully the one where I'm talking about game design in this particular situation. I might also write an article.
Thank goodness that my Wednesdays are open finally.
Yeah, I finally have those.
Just that.
And then, of course, Sunday we'll have another lesson. Oh, by the way, I'm finally almost completely done editing all of these lessons. I might do another wave of editing just because I've been finding stuff through it, but it'll be like finished.
Do you need me to help you go through those?
Yeah, if you want, that'll be great. But it's like final wave of editing. If that, it's already done, but you're just doing cleanup. It's kind of the thinking. I kind of changed my idea. I think what I want to do is give you guys a couple semesters worth, like write up a couple semesters worth, and maybe one of the summer courses. And then we'll talk about maybe getting like a physical something if you guys want that.
It's funny. Every time we say something, it changes.
Yeah, it does. I've been pushing it down the line because I'm trying to feel this out and figure out the right time. And, make sure there's enough of you guys who want it, who might want to share it with friends or do a Bible study on your own and have a physical paper to do it, a physical booklet to give everybody or have them buy or whatever. And so when that happens, I will hopefully put up a Kickstarter type thing so we can get it going. But only if enough people get interested. Because I would like you guys to be able to have something physical too. So it's not just all reading and listening to this crazy hairy guy online. Do I have anything else besides? All right, that's done. And then, of course, stream it for Monday. I think that's it for now. But I'm steadily going to be adding more stuff. So be paying attention for things as they come. It'll be fun. All right. I'm tired. You guys.
You got 5 more minutes so.
To 1 o'clock? No, we're getting off first. All right, Skydog, Arcanes.
Someone's doing a half.
All you other FBI agents watching us now. All you other suckers who were too something that didn't feel like writing in the comments. I can't think right now. It's too tired. The coffee's wearing down. I don't have anything. You
not
got
the sugar crash.
Later, man. Always fun having you on. I'll see you guys later.
A letter. Just kidding.
Oh, triple KKK. Woo! Spicy. Catch you guys later. See you in the next one. Okay, bye.